Welcome to the Parenting Tips Podcast. I'm Jeff Reiland, child and family therapist. In this episode, we'll be talking about self-regulation. Self-regulation extends from co-regulation. When parents serve as a bridge for their child to help manage their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, they're preparing them for the ability to manage these things on their own one day. Parents do this by providing a high level of nurturing, consistency, and predictability in a child's environment. Self-regulation has been defined as a broad construct representing the cognitive, motivational, affective, social, and physiological processes that modulate attention, emotion, and behavior to a given situation stimulus for the purposes of pursuing a goal. And that's a quote from a research article by Bassett, Denham, Wyatt, Warren, Knott in 2012. Putting it in more relatable language, self-regulation is the ability to understand and manage our own behaviors and our reactions to those situations while moving towards a goal. This process of self-regulation is complex and evolving. In this podcast, we'll break this down so that you can consider using some specific strategies for helping you and your child to better self-regulate. First, a tiny bit about brain development. I want to go back and restate something that you've heard in previous episodes of this podcast series. Children's brains are still developing. When children get upset or emotional, the limbic system, the part of the brain that houses our emotions and impulses, takes over. The part of the brain that is still not fully developed, the thinking and rational part of the brain, is kind of offline. When children calm down, this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is more able to help them problem solve and return to a more normal state. Self-regulation occurs across the ages. We never stop learning how to self-regulate. You may have noticed that your infant was able to soothe themselves with a pacifier. Toddlers between ages 18 months and 3 years begin to follow simple instructions. They learn to wait for short periods. They label some of their feelings. They complete short tasks. They seek out help if they become overwhelmed. Preschool children are able to expand their recognition of feelings. They stretch their ability to stay focused on a task. They delay gratification for longer periods of time, and they follow increasingly complex instructions to complete tasks. If you see a pattern here, it's because new skills are built on the foundation of skills that have already been learned. This process does not happen overnight. It's gradual. As children develop more skill through practice and confidence with success, they eventually become more skilled at self-regulation. Do children ever master self-regulation? I want to answer that question with another question. Do adults ever master self-regulation? If we define mastery of a skill as perfection, then the answer is no for both parents and kids. If we define mastery as frequent success and occasional missteps that we can learn from, then both parents and children can accomplish this. Self-regulation involves the ability to regulate our emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in ways that help us to achieve our goals. These three things are interconnected. When a child is confused or overwhelmed, they can become dysregulated and have a meltdown. Their thoughts and emotions may be difficult to process, and we see them get frustrated, give up, or start to tantrum. Self-regulation involves the ability to engage in goal-directed behavior, to self-monitor, and to self-reflect. And we'll talk about each of those in just a moment. We can do this through three broad areas of our lives. We can do this through emotional self-regulation, cognitive self-regulation, and behavioral self-regulation. Emotional regulation is the ability to identify, express, and regulate various emotions. For young children, this involves learning only a handful of emotions, maybe 4 or 5. As children get older, they acquire the ability to differentiate between different emotions and different degrees of an emotion. For example, as an adult, you can determine the difference between being a little annoyed and being furious, with many levels of intensity in between. For young children, it's more like one size fits all. They're a little frustrated, but it comes off looking like a tantrum. Young children are still learning to identify and express their emotions. This is part of learning self-regulation. The second area is cognitive self-regulatory skills. Cognitive self-regulation involves the ability to focus, to control impulses, to set goals, to problem solve, to engage in flexible thinking, and to see other points of view and make decisions. And then behavioral regulatory skills involve the ability to manage behaviors to limit distress and remain calm. This may include distraction, like walking away or taking a break. These three skill areas work together for us, for our children, and it allows us to be able to self-regulate. A few moments ago, I said that self-regulation involves the ability to engage in goal-directed behavior, self-monitor, and self-reflect. Let's take a closer look at what that means. When we engage in goal-directed behavior, we pull together a whole bunch of skills. We plan, we anticipate problems, we gauge how much time and effort it will take, we try to focus, we step back and rethink if there's a problem to find a way around this. Think of all the times your technology devices didn't work and you had to shut it off or restart it as a first step. This is an example of goal-directed behavior. When you go to the grocery store, your goal is to buy food for the family for a certain period of time. You may have discovered that it's better to go at certain times of the day or a week so that it's not so crowded, or to have a written list of things that you need so that you don't forget something. These are other examples of goal-directed behavior. Kids have goals too. For young children, it may not be quite the same in complexity as your goals. They may be determined to explore some part of the room or a box of toys. They may work hard to build a chair and blanket fort or stack up a tower of blocks. These are examples of goal-directed behavior for them. As they grow, their goals become much more sophisticated as they also acquire skills to achieve those goals. Some experts describe self-monitoring as being like a thermostat. A thermostat is a device that monitors the temperature of the room. When it gets too cold, it sends a signal to the furnace to kick in and send some heat to the room. When it gets too hot, it tells the furnace to stop or the air conditioner to turn on. And when the child becomes completely dysregulated, it is as if the power is out and the thermostat is not working. Children need to achieve a level of ability to self-regulate to build on in order to gain a skill and confidence as they learn to do this. Self-monitoring for young children involves helping them grow their ability to notice when they're getting frustrated or when they're tired. This often is obvious after the fact, after they've started to whine or have an outburst. But as a parent, you can help your child by noticing when this seems to happen in the moment. Just as a thermostat senses the temperature of the room and makes adjustments to make the furnace or air conditioner kick in to keep the room about the same temperature, a child's ability to self-regulate involves monitoring their own emotions and keeping themselves regulated, maintaining a level of patience or persistence to participate in some goal-oriented behavior, like building a block tower, and then the ability to tolerate frustration and to think flexibly about how to make changes or adapt if it doesn't work or go smoothly right away. Take a moment and think about this for yourself. Have you ever been frustrated or felt like giving up? Or gotten mad and tried to speed things up, add more muscle, and you wound up breaking something or making it worse? As a woodworker, I can appreciate that there are moments when I get frustrated because some step I have to take to finish a project seems like it's going to take forever and I just want to quit. But I stick with it and it turns out fine. There are many times when we are less patient and the results are a mess. When it comes to your child, ask yourself, do the difficult moments seem to happen at the same time of the day? Could your child be tired? Do the difficult moments occur during transitions from one place to the next when your child, who may not understand time very well, is still busy playing and is in no hurry to leave? Does your child seem to get frustrated when learning a new task or skill and quits because it's too hard? Because we're still co-regulating with young children, we can notice these patterns, help our children to notice them, and then come up with a plan to help them be more successful. This process is not an overnight thing. It takes time. Children learn to self-monitor because we are monitoring them and we teach them what we see. There are many ways for us as parents to get better at self-regulation. The first thing to do is be a good model for how to self-regulate. If you've listened to the episodes in this podcast related to discipline and managing challenging behaviors, you may recall that I've encouraged parents to remain calm. This is what modeling self-regulation looks like. Another strategy is to rethink how you respond to change. When it comes to change, consider that change is inevitable. If you get frustrated and become rigid when the way you imagine things going does not work out, there may be some work for you to do here. Consider unanticipated changes as opportunities for learning patience and experiencing a new adventure. How can you make the most of the situation when you're stuck in traffic, or there is a delay in appointments, or any of the many setbacks that can throw us off every single day? Learning to roll with the moment and find a way to make it work whenever possible is much less stressful. And you're modeling another skill for your child called flexible thinking. As an adult, you probably know what your triggers are when you become dysregulated. Being tired, hungry, overwhelmed, or having unexpected surprises are just a few of the many possibilities. You might want to consider doing a bit of your own self-monitoring and noticing when your temperature on your own internal thermostat starts to rise, and then take steps to keep calm. When things seem to be getting to be too much, it's okay to take a quick break and rethink the best way to approach the situation. One way to accomplish this is to imagine the outcomes. What will happen if you lose your cool? What are the costs to you and to those around you, including your children? How do you feel after you've reacted poorly? Also, keep track of your wins. Remember, we are not striving for perfection here. The more time you're able to remain calm and regulated, the more confident you become in your ability to do this. Focus on your wins. This is one of the reasons it is so important to keep track and to measure any of the changes that you are trying to make for your child's behavior or for yours. Self-reflection is also part of this process. Think of it as a built-in feedback loop where you can look back, or your child can look back and learn what happened and learn from the experience. This allows for a more intentional process of making changes. Young children can't do this very well. They make the same mistakes over and over. We as parents have to take that into consideration and maybe appreciate how hard it is for us sometimes to self-reflect. We can learn from our past experiences also. There are many benefits of children learning to self-regulate. When children can self-regulate, they have an ability to control their own reactions to situations that may involve negative emotions. They can calm down when upset or frustrated more easily. They can stay focused on completing a task or accomplishing a goal. They can better learn to control their impulses. They can learn how to tolerate differences, change, and unplanned situations, and they can work collaboratively with others. The outcomes for children who self-regulate well are striking. They're better able to sit and listen. These are important parts of learning that increases children age. They can control impulses that may get them in trouble and instead act in ways that draw other kids to them as friends. They can learn to participate in activities like board and card games, sports, conversations, and friendship, all of which require skills like turn-taking, sharing, and cooperating. Self-control skills are specific things that kids can do to return to a state of calm when they start to become upset or dysregulated. Self-control and self-regulation aren't the same thing, but they're related. When kids exercise self-control, they're putting off the impulse or the emotions to escalate and blow. This is really important. Self-control skills are typically momentary, and they're useful, really useful. They include strategies like breath work, distraction, walking away, or using 5 senses exercises to calm down once they begin to get upset. But these tools work best before the child loses control. Self-regulation is a bigger picture than that. that involves a child being able to see the situation building or recognize the triggers or circumstances that can lead to problems and to take steps to reduce those problems. Think of the skills needed for self-control to be a small subset or part of the toolbox needed for kids to self-regulate. Successful self-regulation requires that the child is able to identify what the triggers or circumstances are that seem to be present when the child becomes dysregulated. Sometimes parents or other adults need to help them with this. Finding ways to minimize these, to avoid them, or to help the child problem solve what to do when they occur is part of self-regulation. In future podcasts, we'll go into much more detail about some of the elements of self-regulation, including the ability to turn take and share, to engage in flexible thinking, to develop empathy and problem solve, and delay gratification. So what can you do today? Stay regulated yourself. Help your child to recognize triggers, and if possible, avoid some of them. If they're not avoidable, then come up with a plan to help them manage those triggers or situations. Examples might include transition time or getting ready for bed. Help your child find words to use if they need to take a break. Help them to use their voice to express what they need, and maybe to break it down one step at a time for them to calm down. If you see your child becoming frustrated, it is okay for you to point this out to them. Kids may not be able to see their own emotions. Be present for your child, providing a trusting, warm, comforting relationship when they need it as a foundation for them to build on as they learn to self-regulate. Teach your child how to distract themselves when upset. This is where the use of small fidgets or toys can come in handy. If these aren't available, looking for things out the window or practicing slow breath work can help. Playing board games and card games can be super helpful for your child in getting practice at learning, sharing, turn-taking, problem-solving, and sportsmanship. All of these involve self-regulation. We have just covered a very big topic in a fairly short time. We will go into more detail about many of these ideas in future podcasts. This is just a starting point and a small sample of the many ways that you can help your child to learn how to self-regulate. For now, please consider, what do you already do? What do you think that you could add to your toolbox that could further help you and your child on their journey to learn to self-regulate? Thank you for tuning in and considering this parenting topic. I hope that this information added to your growing toolbox for parenting your child or children. Please consider exploring other topics in this series. Remember, no one parenting tool can do everything. We need many tools to become the best parents for our children. Your children's future depends on you and the time and effort you invest in them today.